I know it was you. You broke my heart. Welcome to Primary Technology, the show about the tech news that matters. Galaxy S26 event was this week. We're going to talk about the privacy display and all the kind of minor new features. Agentic tools. You'll be able to order DoorDash on your Galaxy S26. Acme Weather for iPhone. The makers of Dark Sky released a new app. Anthropic versus the Department of Defense. And apparently Claude is the best AI agent out there. Perplexity Computer was announced, and a ton more. This episode is brought to you by Shopify and 1Password, and of course, all of you, the members who support us directly. Thank you for that. I am fired up because Riverside has been broken this entire time, and here to join me in my misery is Jason. How's it going, Jason?
I'm good, but I thought for a second you said Complexity Computer, so I thought, did Hank Green make a computer? Which would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
I think you meant Perplexity, is that right? I'm not correcting you. I wanted to gauge how much excitement I should prepare for.
Oh, no. Perplexity. Okay, Perplexity, not Complexly.
Okay.
Though they're now a nonprofit,
That's true.
Which has been really interesting.
Okay, but it would be amazing if they made a computer, just to be honest.
It would be. Listen, for those who listen to the pre-show, they know what's happening. But for those that just joined us, the Riverside broke my compatibility with my ATEM video switcher, and so we're now just recording on tin cans and baling wire. And who knows if this will actually happen. And that's why you broke my heart. That was the quote I opened the show with. We open every show with a movie quote. I know it was you. You broke my heart. You know what movie that's from? It's pretty
Did
big.
you leave out an important word in that quote?
Not according to this website, which the article is 75 sad quotes from movies from infoplease.com.
I think it's a Godfather quote, but
yes.
I thought the quote was, "You broke my heart, Fredo," but maybe I'm wrong.
It is a Godfather quote. Do you know which part? You have a 1 of 3 chance of getting it right.
2.
Bingo. Nailed it. Even with it, that's pretty good. I have seen all the Godfathers, by the way. My friend Nate has not. Our friend Nate.
The guy who makes a movie podcast.
That's right. Well, we haven't released an episode this year yet. We'll see.
I have had a cold longer than it's been since you guys released an episode.
It is, well, anyway, we'll release an episode this year. Don't worry. We at least do 2 a year.
You used to do 1 a month.
We did 1 every week. We did 1 every week for like 5 years, 6 years.
And then you did all the movies, and now...
That's it. We did every movie, and then we were done. You know what I mean? So anyway, all right. We have some follow up. There is some actual news. Lots of agentic news. Claude co-work is out there, and the Department of Defense wants it to fire missiles or something. So we're going to get into all of that. We do have a 5-star review from Help Me Stuck from the USA. He said, "I've been using Vision Pro since it came out. Unfortunately, I haven't taken it off. I'm stuck. Send help."
I like that. That's
now
good.
Listen, we requested for people to leave us 5-star ratings and reviews if they actually own a Vision Pro, so we could tell how many of our audience actually has one. I don't know if this counts. I mean, obviously they're joking. I don't know. Does that count that they have a Vision Pro?
I mean, they said they have a Vision Pro.
They also said that it's been stuck. I mean,
you can say a true thing and then make a joke. That's literally the point of this podcast.
that should be our tagline. We say true things and then make jokes.
I mean, that is like the dynamic we have going on here. So
that is, yeah, okay, all right, we'll go with that. All right, well, we also have some other follow-up. We talked about EV routing in Apple Maps, and Josiah, who sent us the original email, also sent me this, an email from Josiah. He says he has a Ford F-150 Lightning that also plays into Apple Maps EV charging. And then Norbert sent us this follow-up link, which is Toyota's support page for EV routing. So apparently Ford, Toyota, and possibly other car makers support EV routing and battery percentage at your destination directly in Apple Maps, but you have to have CarPlay, one, and the app, either the Toyota app or the Ford app or whatever, on your iPhone. And then in the settings maps on your iPhone, you can actually toggle on these different EV apps. And that's where you do it. And so that's that. There you go. Mystery solved.
That's great.
Tesla does not do that. It does not plug into Apple Maps, in case you were wondering. Also, I did want to share, I don't know, I love seeing where people listen and watch this show. And so this was a post on Threads of someone listening to Primary Tech in their car using CarPlay. This is from I Am Steve OG. And look at it. Primary Tech on that big old CarPlay screen. That's like a 13-inch CarPlay screen.
That is
large.
Terrifying, actually. But thank you for listening.
That's amazing. You could probably go to the home screen where you actually see the map and you could see everything.
He must be in somewhere where they drive on the other side of the road, right?
Oh, you think so? Oh, right. Maybe?
I mean, the steering wheel definitely seems like it's over on the right-hand side.
That's true. And it's operational security. We don't want to give anything away. But thank you for sending that. If you ever want to send us a picture of where you listen or where you watch Primary Tech, we'd love to share it and see it because it's always fun. Also, we had lots of thoughts from the audience about the audio versus video and Apple Podcasts, which we talked about at length last week. some people, we actually did a little poll on YouTube, which I guess is a new feature. You can actually like put a quiz on YouTube where people can vote right there next to the video. As you would expect, everyone on YouTube said we would love to watch it in Apple Podcasts too. But pretty much all audio listeners were like, if we have to give up chapter artwork, and it seems like if people want to watch the video, they can just go to YouTube, but maybe not do the video and Apple Podcast thing. There was one interesting email from Hayden, who's in Australia, which we do have listeners all over the world. But he was saying that actually prefers dynamically inserted ads because many of the sponsors that he hears in traditional podcasts aren't available in Australia, which makes total sense. Like, we have a lot of sponsors, and I know Copilot Money was one. A listener emailed and said, hey, I'm in Europe, and I can't even use the sponsor, and it's kind of frustrating. And it's a shame because, yeah, you wanted to actually support this show and try the sponsor, which, we only take sponsors that we really believe in. And so that would definitely be frustrating. And so a dynamically inserted ad where you hear something that you can actually buy or get in your country would be a big deal. And Hayden actually gets that, even hyper-local dynamically inserted ads. So that was an interesting perspective. I think for us, I don't know how you feel, Jason. I'm leaning just plowing forward with how we're doing it because you can get the video if you want the video on YouTube, and I don't want to lessen the audio experience for people. And there's still so many unanswered questions as to how the implementation is even going to work. You still don't even have video in the Apple TV app for podcasts, which is wild. So it's like, I think we're going to keep plowing forward how it is. Did you have any feelings?
I mean, I think that makes sense because you can always change that later. But once we start doing it, there's a lot more work that has to be done, mostly by Steven, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Which is why I didn't understand the conversation I ended up in on Threads where someone was like, this is going to be so much simpler. And I'm like, it's not going to be so much simpler. Like, nothing about this is simpler except for the fact that you could swipe back and forth between the video and the audio. But, like, you can't do that now. So no one is like it's a change for everyone. And the cost of doing it is much, much higher. So I don't know. It's like this is
I guess
there's nothing simpler about it.
I guess the benefit would be for people who maybe don't pay for YouTube Premium. They like being able to watch and or listen, and so they do it in YouTube. And if you don't have YouTube Premium, correct me if I'm wrong, if you like lock the screen or try to swipe away from YouTube, the audio stops, right?
I think that's true. I have not used YouTube Premium for a very long time, so I'm not fully sure about that. But anyway, my point is it isn't simple, and so it is a thing where you kind of have to weigh. Does the benefit outweigh the extra work? And since Steven has to do all the work,
well,
I'm going to just let him decide.
I'm not opposed to work, but also our host, Transistor.fm, was sponsored last week's episode. They're working with Apple to support it, but as of right now, they don't have the video support, and I'm not going to switch our host again because I did that for a few weeks and it was not great. So I'm not going to switch again.
And do they host our video as well? For Spotify, we upload that directly to Spotify, right?
I upload it directly to Spotify, which I'm going to have to keep doing anyway.
And so if you think about it, Transistor, great company. I host several other podcasts with them as well. So, but there's no way they're not going to be charging more if they're hosting these video files.
Right, unless they do it, like right now I mentioned last week, I add the HLS video file anyway, and I have to upload it to Cloudflare. So Cloudflare is hosting it, and I just give Transistor a URL, a stream URL. They could deliver that to Apple and not host the video, so there is no additional cost, but I'm not sure how they're going to implement it. So anyway, we're probably going to keep plowing forward, and we hope you enjoy the show, wherever you enjoy it, that you can watch it or listen. And one last piece of follow-up. This was Luke Ireland sent me an email. He's in the UK, updated to iOS 26.4 Beta 2, and actually had to confirm age. And there was actually an article earlier this week that Apple was rolling out age verification tools worldwide to comply with child safety laws. And so it might be that in iOS 26.4 right now, the Beta 2, but when it comes publicly that there might be more age verification restrictions globally, and also maybe here in the U.S. I did update my iPhone Air to the 26.4 Beta 2, but I did not get an age verification anything, so not exactly sure. But if you see that, and if you're running the betas, let us know and be curious. That seems to be coming in 26.4. So there you go. All right, well, let's talk about Samsung, Jason. Samsung had the Galaxy Unpacked event. Just yesterday was the big event where they announced the whole S26 lineup, also their earbuds. Seems like pretty minor changes. The two big standout changes, and I'll link MKBHD's video. There's a bunch of great videos about the phones. MKBHD, by the way, couldn't get to the event because of snow. Did you see this?
No, I did not.
The whole intro to his video is him in front of this massive snowbank, and he was like, I was going to be there, and then my flight was canceled because of the snowstorm in New York. But he still made a great video. He had a team member capture all the video footage. The new feature on the S26 Ultra specifically is the new built-in privacy display. And so this is not something on top of the screen. This is now an ability of the pixels in the display where you can enable privacy display, and when you tilt the phone or if someone's viewing it off axis, you can't see the screen. And so there's been screen protectors like this forever. You know, if you ever see someone's screen looks like blacked out from the side, it's because they're using this privacy display. But this is actually built into the display. And one, the technology is pretty cool, but it also has some really interesting automation features, meaning you can automate it by app. So when you open your banking app, privacy display turns on automatically and then turns off when you go home. You can enable for certain locations, so maybe for work or outside of your home, privacy display is enabled. And you can even just do parts of the screen. So for your banking app, it could privacy display the password field, but not the rest of the display. So it's an interesting feature. I think this is the first phone we've seen like this. Do you think Apple would actually add something like this to the iPhone?
I mean, it does seem like the kind of thing Apple might, but this is not a physical feature. Obviously, this is some kind of software. But it's like it's controlled by software because you can turn it on and off and only do certain areas and stuff. So I mean, I don't know. I could see Apple offering something similar to this, maybe on like the top line device or something. But it's interesting. It kind of feels a little bit like a gimmick to me. I'm not saying that there aren't legit reasons why you might want to have someone not looking at your phone, but also it's a little easier to, like, this is a thing people used to do on their laptops. Actually, they still do. You see like the Lenovo Think Whatever pad things, and people have like the screens over them, and it's really weird. I the first time I saw it, I was sitting on a plane, and the person like next to me is furiously typing on a computer, and their screen was off, and I was like, what are you even doing? And then they like move their laptop so they could like adjust something, and I'm like, oh, what? I don't know what voodoo you have going on over there, but the point was they were sitting for a long period of time, and they couldn't like move their laptop, and they were at the mercy of the people around them. I just feel like people should have better security hygiene on their phone. Like, maybe don't be typing in your banking password when you're sitting at the bar.
Well, this is like, I always tell stories of whenever I'm in it's a concert type event or a sporting event, and if you're behind a bunch of rows of people, I see so often someone just lift their phone into the air and type in their 4-digit passcode, which is like 1234, into their phone for the hundreds of people behind them to see. And I'm like, OPSEC. Operational security. Like
that's literally what I'm saying. I don't think the solution to that is make the screen harder for people to see with technology. I think it's like, just don't hold your phone up in the air and type in the passcode.
Yeah, because it's also, the screen will on this 26 Ultra, like in MKBHD's video, it will go totally black when you're far enough off axis, but if you're just slightly off axis, it's just dim. So it's not like people won't see the huge passcode entry that you're doing. But
also, if you're sitting in front of me and you hold your phone up, guess who else is just on axis? Me.
Right.
Exactly. Like, it's not going to do you any good.
Right. So that was a big standout feature. It also has 60-watt charging, so faster charging on the 26 Ultra. And there's a bunch of AI features that are coming to the S26 lineup as well as the Pixel 10 lineup. And there's this interesting amalgamation of AIs in these phones. So in the S26 lineup and in the Pixel 10, there's going to be Bixby on the Samsung phones, not the Pixels. There's some kind of improved Bixby with AI, but also Google Gemini and some Perplexity is all kind of mixed in there.
You can just say, hey, Plex, I will give you $100 if you just talk to your phone that way. Come on.
Hey, Plex, which not to be confused with Plex, the actual service and app.
Which doesn't have a smart assistant at this point, so I think the wake word is safe. But just, can you imagine people just,
hey, Plex. Hey, Plex. We're going to talk about Plex again in a second, but it's going to have agentic stuff, and Google actually announced that Gemini will be able to do some agentic working of apps on your phone, like the one example that every AI device has used, DoorDash. You'll be able to like order DoorDash, and Gemini will use the app on your phone for you. There's going to be in a limited number of apps, but it is that kind of agentic control that we've seen more and more on computers, OpenClaw. Now you have Gemini being able to DoorDash you something. And someone actually messaged me on social media, and I was like, I should do a DoorDash shootout where I have the Rabbit R1. I get like a Pixel 10 and maybe a Galaxy S26, and I see which one can actually order DoorDash for me, and it actually arrive. I'm probably not going to do that.
That's great. The thing I think about is like, I mean, DoorDash, whatever, but I just still don't think that's the kind. No one's going to be like, hey, I'm really hungry. Send me some Chick-fil-A breakfast, right? Like, it's not that hard to just. I don't want to order. I don't want a robot ordering me food. I want to be able to open the app, make sure it's right, and then I get it. It would be different if it's like, because you can do this. You can create a shortcut that's like, just reorder my favorite Starbucks drink. That's fine.
You can.
That's fine.
Thank you for mentioning shortcuts, by the way.
You're welcome. I'm trying to help you out, buddy. But my point is, like, that's fine, but you set that up once and it's just an automation.
It's the exact thing.
It's not somebody trying to figure out what you want. One of the examples was something like you could just tell your phone, hey, my eyes are tired, and it will like turn on a blue light feature. Is it that hard to just be like, turn on the blue light filter? I mean, doesn't it feel a little bit like we are fishing for reasons for these things to exist?
It does. I feel like Claude Cowork has a reason to exist, which we're going to get to. But with this, I do wonder, like...
Not sponsored, though it might be hard to tell.
Not sponsored. If you look at, like, if you're holding your S26 and you say, hey, order me a bacon, egg, and cheese through DoorDash from Uncle Nick's Bagels or whatever, like, are you just going to sit there staring at the phone while it slowly taps? And you think to yourself, wow, I could really tap faster than this?
Right.
Or is it like you say that and then you put the phone down, but then you have to keep looking at it to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to?
Not only that, how's it going to pay? Because you can't use Apple Pay. I mean, these are not Apple devices anyway.
Google Pay, yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, like, you couldn't use Google Pay without it scanning your face.
Oh, true. Yeah, you're going to have to pick it up at least then.
I don't know. Like, it does feel like we're fishing for reasons for these things to exist, because all of the examples are things that I'm like, no, actually, it's just better if I just do that.
You just do it. Well, some of the other AI features that are coming to the Galaxy phone specifically is the Now Nudge, which is Samsung's branding for the Pixel's Magic Q. It's hilarious naming. But that's where, like, if you're in the middle of a text message, it can preemptively show you information to either share, or like if someone, like Jason texted me, like, oh, when are you going to CES? Like, your keyboard will automatically surface an auto-filled response with, like, my event or whatever, or, like, with my flight information. So Now Nudge is there on Samsung. Cool.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Well, we'll see. And then I'm really curious what Bixby is going to do as opposed to Gemini, because on the Samsung phones, you kind of have this fight for the AI. But also call screening is coming to the Galaxy phones like it has been on the Pixel phone. So there's that kind of stuff.
Steven, have you ever accidentally sent someone an awkward text message? Like, for example, have you ever responded to a text message from your mother and it's like, thanks, babe, see you soon? Or have you ever sent a text message to someone that wasn't your spouse and you're like, headed home, can't wait to see you? These are not real things that have ever happened to me, clearly, but I'm just, my point is like, this is going to happen. Like, it's going to be surfacing things that are like not what you meant to send to someone, and you're just going to start tapping the buttons, and all of a sudden you're going to realize that you sent stuff you shouldn't.
Maybe. I don't know. I have not used this feature, and maybe I need to get a Pixel 10 at least to try it. I will say I have sent a text message that said got it, but I accidentally, because the iPhone keyboard is bad, put the space after the G-O and not the T, and then that's an awkward text.
That's
an awkward text.
That's an awkward one. I mean,
so anyway, we're not going to. Don't
Steven,
think too hard about it.
I would like you to do something, though. Yes. I would like you to keep a running total.
Okay.
Of the amount of money you've spent on things for the purpose of this show,
okay,
versus your other podcast. I want to know which of these podcasts is more expensive to you. That's what I want to know.
As of 1 week, Mac Power users is I mean, the Humane AI pin and the Rabbit R1, that was for YouTube and this show. So I feel like, I don't know how I can split that.
I think it would just be interesting to see.
The menu bar episode was expensive. I'm not going to lie. And we're probably going to get into that later, because we're going to talk about backup solutions in personal tech. Anyway, that was the S26 event. There was also Galaxy Buds are out there. Neither of us went there, and so
I did not go. I was not invited. I thought about asking for review units, and then I was like, I actually have enough to do. It's fine.
That and I don't. Now, I've tried to do several videos about I tried Pixel for a week, and here's why I still come back to iPhone. And I feel like my reasons are legitimate, namely, like, shortcuts, the changing of home ecosystems is too big of a lift. There's actual reasons for it, but everyone says like you really need to try the 26 or the latest Samsung Ultra phone, because that's like the Android phone that all the Android people like, and that's like the best Android phone, not the Pixel ones. So every year I'm always like, should I try an S26 Ultra? And I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, I've reviewed a number of them in the past, and again, they're like all great. They're absolutely great. I just was like, I'm not gonna have time to do that.
Yeah. And I also think, like I've saw on several places on social media, people were like, not huge updates for Samsung. They actually made the battery a smaller capacity, I think, and then the storage, the base storage on one of the models actually went down. But it's also like, listen, phone tech, it's very mature. Like, we're just at a place right now where maybe every once in a while across the years we'll see like a feature on the iPhone or Android phones where it's like, oh, that's a thing. But the real story is going to be software. It's going to be, can this AI ever do something actually useful? Will my DoorDash order ever arrive from my Rabbit R1? Like, that's kind of, the software is now the deal, because we're now in that just a time period, I think.
And isn't the real news here, though, that they didn't get MagSafe?
That is really annoying. That's annoying. I actually saw a creator on Instagram was like, put this case on and then you can put any MagSafe accessory. And I was like, wait a minute. So you need a case for that? And then, yeah, it turns out Samsung, it's now a standard. It's not just like Apple's thing. Like Qi 2 is like the MagSafe thing. That's Pixel Snap. And that's wild that the
And they
Pixel
support
thing.
Qi 2 speeds wirelessly.
Correct.
It's just not the magnet alignment.
Yeah, that's annoying. So no MagSafe magnets, which is another, like, I would go to a Pixel today over Samsung because all my MagSafe stuff will work. And I have,
Exactly.
In case anybody's wondering, I have a lot of MagSafe stuff. These are all MagSafe batteries that I'm doing a video about, Jason. Look at that.
See, okay, so add that up. No, that's YouTube.
Well, the YouTube,
That's YouTube.
the YouTube. Listen.
No, you showed it on this
expenses.
podcast account.
Oh, so I can count
Actually,
it
I
twice.
don't know if what I want is for us to be more expensive or for him to cost you more. I don't know.
He's gonna cost me more money. In case you're wondering, I'm now on a Mac Power Users with David Sparks. We've had a couple episodes already with the two of us. This Sunday, we're talking about our iPhone setups, and not to say that one's winning and losing. I think David Sparks won the menu bar episode just from sheer horde of apps in the menu bar. But I think I won the iPhone setup episode. We'll see.
So when you say that it's Mac Power Users, it's basically living a lie because you're doing an iPhone setup episode.
Listen. iPhone, it's in the ecosystem. It's all part of the ecosystem.
It's not Apple Power Users.
Listen, maybe
it's fine.
We'll call it Pro Max users. Mac? No, we're not going to do that. Just kidding. We're not. No, just kidding. We're not. No one's changing the name. It's Mac Power Users, but Mac users use iPhone. Anyway, I don't know why I'm defending this to you.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I don't know
really
what's happening. I don't know what's happening. Let's move on. We have Acme Weather. I wanted to mention this. This came out. The makers of Dark Sky. Dark Sky was the weather app beloved by many that was then acquired by Apple. Apple integrated some of the Dark Sky elements into the stock weather app, and the Dark Sky team worked at Apple since that acquisition. Well, they actually left Apple and have now made another weather app. This is Acme Weather. It has similar feelings of Dark Sky, but it is very different when it comes to like design and aesthetic. Yes, the icon is really rough. They really need to redo the icon. It's an umbrella that says Acme. And I'm like, is this a Looney Tunes reference? Is this like Wile E. Coyote kind of thing? I don't know. Anyway,
I'm downloading it right now. We'll see.
Isn't it downloaded? I downloaded it. I've been using the widget. I've been trying it out. I don't know if it's going to be my default weather app. There's a 2-week free trial. It's only available in the U.S. and Canada right now, but then it's $25 a year. There's like no ongoing free tier. $25 a year I feel is pretty reasonable for an app, but you really do have to love it. And the advantage to Acme is the possible futures predictions. So when you look at the forecast in the Acme app, you'll see the forecast in like a bold line, and then there's going to be lighter gray lines around it that are alternate predictions. So it's showing you like, here's also a possibility, here's how hot or cold it could be, possible precipitation. And so they try to show you more data to give you an idea of like, here's a consensus of forecasts. These forecasts vary widely, and so there's a greater range of variability. There's also community reporting. And if you liked the dark sky maps, and for some reason you don't like the Apple weather maps, these maps are different and nice. The app has some pretty strong design, like aesthetic. the font is very bold, not bold, but like it's very strong. Like
serif font.
It's a serif font, yeah. And the design is not like other weather apps, I would say. I mean, it's a pretty strong design, but it's nice, And if you want to try it, it's out there. Again, you have a 2-week free trial. And if you really, really miss dark sky and really, really don't like the stock weather app or care it for some reason, you can try it out. The icon, though, the icon's got to go.
It does feel like the team left Apple, except for whoever was making their icon before, because that is 100% generated by ChatGPT. Like, that is what a weather app called Acme Weathers would be generated. That's what ChatGPT would give you.
That does seem like that now that you say it. But it's also just like a 2D umbrella. Like, that could have just been a Unicode icon, and I didn't even know. Anyway. Acme Weather's out there. You could try it. We'll put a link to their website, which then has a link to get the app in the show notes. There's some really big news about Claude and the Department of Defense, which we need to get to, and how Claude does not want, or Anthropic does not want Claude to be used to, have unfettered access to observing Americans or firing missiles. And so we need to get into all of that, but I think we do. We're going to take a break and thank our wonderful sponsors this week. The first of which is Shopify. Shopify is the way to launch your online business or store, whether you're doing e-commerce, in person. It's the way to go. Listen, I've built a lot of websites in my day, like literally hundreds. Like, you can actually look at my track record. I have literally built hundreds of websites. And when you're trying to do e-commerce stuff, it can be a real challenge, especially when you use other platforms. But Shopify makes it easy, and it is the best way to set up your online store for your small business, your e-commerce, whatever it is. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. From household names like Heinz, Untuckit, and Allbirds. I've bought shoes from there. And you can get started with your own design studio, hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. And you can get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create emails, social media campaigns, wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. And listen, I tried to ship pins all over the world for this podcast, and doing it yourself is really, really difficult. Let Shopify handle it for you. So it's time to turn those what-ifs into cash with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/primary. Go to shopify.com/primary. That link is in the show notes. Click it there. That's shopify.com/primary. And launch your online store with Shopify today. Our thanks to Shopify for sponsoring this episode and our friends at 1Password. I still use 1Password to share vaults with my family. I've used it in the workplace. 1Password is the way to keep your login secure, keep your entire team secure so they're not using passwords like 1234, like we just talked about. People putting 1234 as their passcode on their iPhone. Listen, don't do that. Use 1Password in your business. Teams of any size can be a target, but the good news is even the smallest teams can foil cybercrime. 1Password provides simple security to help small teams manage the number one risk that bad actors exploit, which is weak passwords. And 1Password is designed to meet small teams where they are, and it's also built to grow with your company. I've used it on teams with hundreds of people, and 1Password with the vaults, being able to assign logins to different people, sharing them, 1Password is the way to go. However complex your security needs may get, 1Password will stay with you every step of the way. And 1Password's Enterprise Password Manager helps your company eliminate security headaches and improve security by identifying weak and compromised passwords. So, and I use passwords again with my family, sharing vaults. I still save things like travel account numbers and different things that just other apps aren't good at handling. And so 1Password is the way to go. Take the first step to better security by securing your team's credentials. Find out more at onepassword.com/primarytech and start securing every login. That's onepassword.com/primarytech and start securing every login. Our thanks to 1Password for sponsoring this episode. Jason, I don't know what of our members and listeners will hear of that ad read, but you just went for a ride.
I actually just completely blanked. I glitched for a while there because Steve...
I entered a fugue state, I think, is what they call it. Oh, my word. All right. Well, we need to talk about some serious business. So, Dario Amodei, how do you say that? How do you say his name? I feel like I've heard it multiple times on different news shows.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
The Anthropic CEO, Dario Amodei.
Oh, I thought it was Amodei, but I could be wrong.
Oh, Amodei? Dario Amodei?
I don't know. Is that how you... yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for how I mispronounced. Anyway, the CEO of Anthropic had to meet with Pete Hegseth and members of the Department of Defense this week because the Department of Defense wants to have the ability to employ Claude, the AI, to do things like mass surveillance and handle lethal autonomous weapons without human intervention. That's what the Department of Defense wants to do with Claude. And Claude is apparently already installed and used throughout many security levels within the Pentagon and in military and Department of Defense, and it already has clearance. And one of the complications is if the Department of Defense wants to go with a different AI, they have to do all that clearance steps with either OpenAI or Google, which are all in the mix. And Anthropic is like, you know what? We don't know if we want to allow our AI to be able to do all of those things. And say it again. What's his name?
Dario
Amodei.
Yeah.
Literally,
or you could just say Anthropic CEO.
Anthropic CEO. I know. I try to get the pronunciations right, but it's tough. But anyway, you have to go to the Pentagon, meet with Pete Hegseth and members of the government to decide what's going on. The government has not said they're doing this yet, but if Anthropic is not willing to comply and allow Claude to be used in this way, they might designate Anthropic as a supply chain risk, which might then allow them to force Anthropic or Claude to do certain things. But one of the pull quotes from the Verge article, which we'll link in the show notes, says that, quote, Claude is the only frontier AI model operating on fully classified Pentagon networks deployed through Palantir's AI platform and Amazon's top-secret cloud, meaning it sits at the center of workflows that most other models cannot yet access. And that was quoted to Chowdhury. But not Imran Chowdhury of Humane AI Pin, different Chowdhury, just to be specific. A couple interesting things here. One, fascinating that the government has said Claude is like the best tool, the best AI tool to use across our systems. We want Claude. And Claude has already played a part in the Venezuelan, was it Venezuela raid?
Yeah, where they took the president.
They took the president. Like Claude actually played a role in that mission, and apparently they want Claude to do even more. So just at a high level, I think it's interesting that amongst all the AI models and agents, the Department of Defense is like, Claude is the one. It's the best at doing things. We want it. And I feel like this kind of goes to the picture of which AI model is currently in the lead. Obviously, forever it was OpenAI's ChatGPT. I feel like Google Gemini had a moment around the holidays where it was like, oh, Gemini's getting really good. And now I feel like Claude has just surpassed and just come above. I mean, even the Department of Defense saying that. Does it feel that way to you, or are you still on the Gemini kick?
I'm using both Gemini and ChatGPT. I don't really use Claude, but I don't need to pay for 3 of these.
Well,
I mean, I do use Claude occasionally for free, the free tier. We should say, since we're talking about it, Anthropic has been a previous sponsor.
They sponsored last week's episode. Yeah.
So we just should say that, so that as we have this conversation, then everyone understands that. That's great. But
yeah, they did not sponsor this episode.
No, they just have been a sponsor in the past. So we but I only use their free version. They've never given me a free version. Like, they've never paid for any of it. So yeah. Anyway,
I started paying for Claude because, one, I started using it for shortcuts building, and it was better at things like parsing API requests and giving me regex to use. It was just, I had to do less back and forth with Claude than I did ChatGPT. So it was getting better at that. And then I tried features like Claude Cowork, which maybe we'll get into when we talk about Perplexity Computer. And Claude Cowork feels like a nice middle ground between OpenClaw, which feels like a big security risk and also very complicated to set up, but does agentic tasks on your computer, including your Mac right now. And you can connect things like Notion and Slack and your folders, and it can just take action there. So Claude Cowork has been pretty valuable. I actually did a whole video on it on the channel, different use cases. But all the way up to the government and the Department of Defense saying, Anthropic is who we want.
Yeah, so I think the core issue here is that Claude / Anthropic it's better at the things that they want it to do for a lot of these purposes, but Anthropic has been a little bit particular about not wanting it to be used for certain things, right? And it turns out that the government's like, but actually it's the best at those things. Like, we don't know the specifics of what that is.
Well, mass surveillance is one.
Sure.
Mass surveillance.
But I'm assuming there's a couple things we don't actually know about that they want it to do, like powering drones or whatever, that kind of stuff. And they just, and Anthropic is like, we've drawn a line at that. We don't want to do that. And so the Department of Defense has a couple of options. One of them is that they could designate it as a supply chain risk. What that would mean is that's a pretty heavy option, right? Because that is the type of thing that they would normally reserve for like a foreign adversary influence, right? Like you'd be like, oh, Anthropic is controlled by Russia or China or something like that, or something that could compromise national security. But the fact that they want to use it makes it pretty clear that it's not that. So that's really a threat, because it's kind of like, if we did this, it would immediately terminate your $200 million contract, which is like not $0. That's a pretty decent amount of money, right? Yeah. And it would force every defense contractor, so not just the Department of Defense, but every contractor who works with the Department of Defense, to certify that they do not have Anthropic technology on any of their devices. So that just means like random dude has an iPhone with Claude on it, that would not be allowed. Like, so it is essentially saying we will blacklist you if you don't do this thing. The other alternative is that they could use what's, I think, called the Defense Production Act, which essentially is like, if something is considered essential to the military can designate you and use this law to essentially force it to be used for that purpose. If you were the only company in America that refines lead, and you're like, we don't want to make bullets, and they're like, but we need you to make bullets, and we're like, no, we're not going to make bullets, and the Department of Defense can actually be like, actually, you have to make bullets. Like, here's the law, you have to. We're going to force you to do it. That's a weird example. I don't think that's even like the way that works, but the point is, like, with Anthropic, they could say, no, you have to do this. And that's kind of, I think that they would like to avoid that, because one, that's a huge PR problem for everyone.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
And Anthropic, I don't think they have the ability to say, fine, we're just going to neuter our product. You're going to force us to do this thing we don't want to do. We're just going to make it so our product can't do that. And it's kind of like when the government comes to Apple and they're like, build a backdoor. And they're like, well, we technically can't build a backdoor, right? Like, we literally won't do it because we can't. And there are ways Anthropic could be like, sorry, like, Claude got dumb. I don't know what to tell you. He went out on one long bender one night, and suddenly he doesn't know what to do.
Just hung over. Now, the evening before Amadei's meeting with Pete Hegseth, the Pentagon confirmed that it signed an agreement to use Grok, the Elon Musk's XAI model. And if Anthropic refuses to comply or does not work with the Department of Defense, they will consider going with either Gemini or OpenAI's model, even though the Pentagon has said like those are inferior in their use cases to doing it. Also, the mass surveillance, that was on the American people, by the way. That wasn't like mass surveillance worldwide. That was like, they want to use Claude for mass surveillance here in America, which I'm like, I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, I know how I feel.
You should feel bad.
I should feel bad. Like, it doesn't feel good.
There's no, I don't know how to feel about it. It's not good.
Right. And so the fact that they know it's useful for that, I feel like implies it's been done for that, or at least been tested for that. Otherwise, how would it, like, that specific of a use case, like, why would it even come up? But,
well, I mean, so obviously it gets kind of complicated because there are defense contractors. You tried to say the name of one of them, Palantir. And
wait, what did I say?
I think you said Palantir. I don't know.
I think I said Palantir. I thought that was from the Jumper movie. Samuel L. Jackson and
Palantir.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to help you out here. Alex
Any Jumper
Karp
movie
is the
fans?
CEO. Peter Thiel is one of the founders. They are the company that is like, they're the ones that build the technology that allows the government to interconnect all of these different databases to pull information to do this kind of surveillance. So we have seen this deployed. There have been reports that ICE is using this technology. This is one of the reasons that Amazon just sort of pulled back from their Flock, whatever that,
the
camera surveillance thing, right? Those are companies that feed information into other technology companies like Palantir to provide this. And so we know that this happens, right? It's not even a surprise or secret anymore. But I think what Anthropic is saying is like, they do have a red line, and the Defense Department is basically saying that if it's a lawful use, not a moral objection, if it's a lawful use, you have to allow your software to be used for that. And Anthropic's like, but we actually prefer to have a red line that's in a different place.
Correct. So it's still up in the air right now. I don't think there's been news that anything has been decided or agreed upon between the two. Obviously, the other AI models are ready to jump on this. It would not be an immediate swap because the level 6 clearance that Claude has with the Department of Defense, the other models would have to be approved for that. So we'll see. But you were also saying you don't really use Claude Cowork yet, or have not tried it.
Literally never.
Literally never. I would just say I had to rename a bunch of files, and it does that really well. And I know you could do that with shortcuts in Apple Intelligence, but Claude did it faster and better. And you can also, unlike OpenClaw, which, you have to install and do terminal things and all of that, Cowork just works in the Mac app for Claude. And you can connect things like Notion, Slack, even messages, which I did not. I did not connect my iMessage because I was like, that's one.
I shouldn't. Talking about mass surveillance, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Your messages are end-to-end encrypted unless you connect them to Claude.
Right, and then I'm like, yeah, maybe not. So anyway, but the use cases that I did find have been useful. It is good at that. I'm going to be experimenting more with it. I might finally switch my entire notes database to Obsidian.
Kind of knew that this is what was going to happen when you joined back.
So the reason why is I use Bear Notes, and Bear Notes keeps its notes in like kind of a proprietary database on your Mac. So every note is not like a simple text or markdown file. It is, kind of its own.
It's just a database entry.
It's a database entry. And Claude Cowork, you can try to download an MCP server, which I'm finally now understanding. Like an MCP server would allow Claude Cowork to work with the database and like help it speak that language. Or you can use something like Obsidian. And the reason why everybody talks about Obsidian, at least on the Techie podcast, is because Obsidian saves every note just as a markdown file on your computer or in the cloud. And now you have just a regular file for every note that you've created, but you get all the benefits of a good note-taking app, namely the Obsidian app on your iPhone and your Mac. And then Claude Cowork can actually take action like writing things to those text files or rearranging them and reorganizing them. And so I think I'm going to do this experiment. I may regret it. But I'm going to export all my Bear Notes, which I have, I think, like 6,000. I'm going to export all those Bear Notes as text files and then tell Claude Cowork to make it into an Obsidian structure, point Obsidian, and see if it just works. And if it works, like if it could just do all that and I don't have to think about losing notes or trying to create the folder hierarchy in Obsidian or whatever, I might try it. That's going to be a weekend project for me.
It sounds like a terrible idea, but you do you.
Okay. So that's Claude and Obsidian and all of that. Let's talk about Perplexity. More AI news. Did you know Perplexity Comet, the AI browser, is coming to iPhone? Did you know that?
It will not be coming to my iPhone.
You're not going to download it on your phone?
No, I don't even have it
it's
on
more
my Mac.
It's more sandbox than your Mac. No?
I don't know. Perplexity just feels icky to me.
You're not wrong.
Okay.
You're not wrong.
I don't really like icky on my iPhone.
I get it. Well, the Comet app is going to be coming to iPhone on March 11th, so we're a couple weeks away, but it will be able to do the AI browser type things on your iPhone. I actually did a video because Comet is already on Android, and so I did a video using Comet on Android, and it can do the things like find you a promo code for when you're shopping online or take some action on a website you're on, but it'll be on iPhone March 11th. But Perplexity also announced Perplexity Computer, which is only available to Max subscribers right now, the $200 a month plan. So if you're on Pro or on the free tier, you don't have access to it. But Perplexity Computer basically uses all the models from Claude and OpenAI and Google, runs in the browser, and it can do really complex tasks for a very long time and just do it for you, like an agent. Now, because it's not like Cowork where it's taking action on your computer, it just lives in the browser. It's a little limited as far as like agentic tasks for your stuff specifically. But if you wanted it to build a massive spreadsheet, Perplexity Computer can do that. I'll link this Deep View article. It draws from 19 models. It can use things like Gemini for deep research, Nano Banana for images, VO 3.1 for videos, GPT 5.2 for long context recall. So it'll basically use the best of every model in whatever context you're asking for it. And it said Perplexity has been testing it, and it built a 4,000 row spreadsheet overnight and it has created websites. So maybe you can give it a task like build me a website based on this and create dashboards, all of that. uses a ton of tokens, of course, because it's doing these long-running tasks. But, yeah, people are saying it looks pretty interesting, but Perplexity Computer, that's a thing.
I think my problem, I figured it out. This has been a very self-analytical podcast for me to be on, just in general. I know I am a bad journalist. I figured out why. Like, all these things. My problem, I think, is there are a lot of things that, like, Claude Cowork probably would do for me that would be beneficial.
Yes.
And be able to do them much quicker than I can do. Or maybe they wouldn't do them quicker, but I could just go do a different thing, right? But figuring it out and setting it all up and go, this is actually the problem with shortcuts for me sometimes. Like it's like learning a foreign language in some ways, even if you're not learning how to code. It's just, doing that, I don't have the time to do that. And I know that if I did it, it would be super beneficial because there's a lot of other areas where it would add benefit to my life. But I can't find the time to just do that. So like the idea of setting up Perplexity Comet to do, like, I'm like, what would I want it to do? You know, by the time I got done thinking about what I wanted, I could have just done those things. And now I understand that the next time and the next time and the next time there'd be a benefit, but does that make any sense?
No, it makes sense. And that's one of the reasons why I tested OpenClaw for like 5 minutes. Cause I was like, even asking it to do something is really finicky. Like, I'm not going to use Telegram on my iPhone to tell my Mac to do something to then run in the background. Like, it's just not, no. So I get that. The one point I will say is that Claude Cowork has required the least setup. So it's literally like connect Slack, it logs in, you're done. And now you can ask Claude things about Slack. And one of the examples I show in the video is, you know, if you don't remember where you got some information, if I connect to Notion, Slack, let's say, for instance, your email, your text messages, that like semantic index that Apple talked about, where it's like you don't know where this piece of information is, but you know it's on your phone somewhere, you can then ask Claude Cowork, hey, where did Jason send me the information about that thing? Sure. And it will find it, you know, across all those different apps, which is something that Spotlight can't really do. You know, it's not going to search through your Slack messages. And if you just search in Slack, you're not seeing the results from Notion and email and your messages. So Claude Cowork can at least connect all those data points and then give you a comprehensive search. And so that seems pretty useful. And setting it up is basically just logging into each service. Again, your threshold for how comfortable you are connecting it to your email and things like that, notwithstanding, I did connect it to a Gmail account that I don't really use, and it's good at that too. Like I could just ask it things, give me the information from this email. Did I get any important emails? Or you can even ask it, like, give me a summary of all my emails today, and did any of them look important? Now, I know someone like you have Spark, and you can ask the Spark AI that. But you can do that across multiple, you know, all your emails with Cloud Cowork. So Cowork has been the easiest to set up. Again, it just depends on your willingness to connect it to whatever services. But renaming files, it is easier to set up and have Cloud Cowork do that than in Shortcuts. I'll give you that. If you were starting from scratch. If you're just downloading one of my shortcuts, maybe that would be quicker. I mean,
yeah, it's easier for me to just text Steven and be like,
hey, can you build a shortcut?
Can shortcuts do this? And I never get an answer that says, yes, shortcuts can do this. I just get a shortcut.
That is true. That is my
the world's greatest sickness. LLM agent is Steven, I don't even get an answer. I just get a shortcut. So I guess the answer is yes.
That is my sickness that has allowed me to start a business.
To be fair, I don't abuse that privilege. It's only been occasional.
Only when we're at dinner and you're like, hey, do shortcuts do this?
I was like, can shortcuts do this?
And I will build one literally
on
right
the spot. And it was amazing.
It's
the most useful shortcut I've ever had.
I'm the best AI agent.
Yes.
I'm the best.
Steven AI. That's great.
It. So that's all that. We'll keep covering it if more news comes out about Claude and the Department of Defense, Perplexity. But let's do a kind of a lightning-ish round. I want to talk about Apple TV shows that I didn't know existed. Nate texted me this show. Have you ever heard of this show? Knife Edge?
No, but I actually feel like the category of Apple TV shows I didn't know existed is fairly large.
Well, yeah, apparently. So this is a documentary reality show. Is an Apple TV Plus property called Knife Edge. It's about different restaurants chasing Michelin stars. I had no idea the show existed. It is an Apple TV Plus show. Nate recommended it to me, and it's really, really good. And so we started watching it the other day, and I'm like, how did I not know that Apple just has more other shows? So anyway,
He hasn't seen The Godfather, but he's seen Knife Edge.
He's seen Knife Edge. It's a good show. I just want to throw that out there as like, if you like cooking show, if you liked Chef's Table on Netflix, which I did enjoy that show, Knife Edge has that, plus like the whole Michelin star thing, which I didn't realize when a restaurant has a Michelin star, the plaque in their restaurant literally has the Michelin Man on
Yes,
it.
It's the same. It's the tire thing.
I know it's the same company, but I didn't realize like the Michelin Man logo was literally on the Michelin star, and I'm like, that feels kind of weird. But anyway.
Yeah. It is interesting how this super, super prestigious thing that exists in the restaurant world is the outflow of a travel guide created by a tire company.
Yeah. Because what? So the people drive farther to the restaurant?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know. That's all I know about it. I just said the extent of my knowledge. But the number of things that like exist that you're like, oh, this is why there's a spelling bee. I mean, I don't even, like, it's like, right? Like, it's like.
What do we, Big B? Does Big B come up with that?
No,
like Big Honey Bee?
I just threw out words.
Is Cheerios behind it? Is Cheerios behind spelling bee?
No, but it's like scripts. But anyway, I'm just saying, like, it's just interesting how we get these things in the world.
Yeah, it is. Also, next week, one more Apple thing. All the Apple stuff's coming out next week. We're probably going to see news press releases maybe starting Monday.
Yeah, this is the benefit of having a Thursday show, is hopefully it will be over.
I would think so. Wednesday is the Experience at 9 a.m. Eastern, which we might see some videos released on YouTube, but more so we'll probably see Instagram and YouTube shorts from creators that are actually there. So stay tuned. We'll talk about everything they announced next Thursday. I might do some recap videos depending on how big the news is. We'll see.
Are you going?
No, I was not. I wasn't invited. Yeah, thanks for rubbing it in, though.
Don't worry, I was not invited either.
Okay, very good. We're both.
I mean, I've been there before, but I was not.
Okay, well, that's okay. We don't have to go that far. Let's take it easy. Take it easy.
Take it easy.
Other lightning round. YouTube Premium Lite is adding offline downloads and background play. You talked about YouTube subscription. I forgot YouTube had Premium Lite. This is something that has existed. It's the $8 a month plan as opposed to like the $20, I think. YouTube Premium.
Is this the one where you just don't get music or something?
You don't get music, and you didn't get background play before, but now you do. So, like we were saying, if you want to watch this podcast on YouTube, be able to turn off your screen and just listen to it. Now, that's background play in the YouTube Premium Lite. But the no ads is like on most videos. There's like a big asterisks on this. Why did someone make that word asterisk?
But what should that word be?
Asterisk.
Jello? I mean, what do you mean?
Asterisk.
That would be a different word.
How many S's do we need in the word asterisk? Anyway, that's just a pet peeve of mine. Sorry, there's a little leftover animosity towards Riverside.
It's just flowing out all over.
Every time I have to share my screen during this episode and use the Riverside Mac app, I'm not going to say it, but I get upset.
He cusses in his head. That's what that means. When Steven says he's going to flip a table, there are a lot of other words that have gone through his mind.
I think I might have cursed in the pre-show. Jason doesn't think I said a curse word, but I can't say it now because I don't want an explicit tag. So anyway, that I used a word that describes the internet today.
Which is, anyway, I told him it was fine.
Okay, thank you. They literally just sponsored this episode, but it's news, so we should probably cover it.
Yeah.
1Password is upping their prices.
Yeah.
So it's going to cost $12 more per year for the personal and for the family plan. So yeah, price is going up.
Yeah, I mean, okay. And people seem to be very mad about this. And I will just say this. I did not know they were sponsoring today, but I had been thinking about this, so I'm glad that we're talking about it. I do have an interesting perspective. I've interviewed both of the two recent CEOs of 1Password.
That's
okay?
right.
David Fogno and before him, Jeff Schneider. So, I feel like I have a relatively good feel for the people behind this company. And what I will say is, yes, it's no one likes it when things get more expensive. I think that on the plan that I am on, the price was going from like 8 something to 9 something. I can't remember, but it went up $1, right?
It went up $1.
And $1, if you're paying $3 a month and you go to 4, that's a pretty big increase, and that's fine. And I think the great thing about this, and I actually think that the people at 1Password would say this is, the good news is like there are other options. If you like the passwords app just the stock passwords app has gotten very good. That's what you use, right? You use the stock app?
I still use both. Like I still pay for 1Password and use it for some things, but I do use the iCloud passwords by default.
Yeah. And what I will just say, even though they were our sponsor, this is how you know that we're just truthful here, is that if all you need to do is store your own passwords, like probably the passwords app will do that for you.
Correct.
The killer feature for something like 1Passwords is you can have a lot of passwords that you may need to share in different combinations with different groups of people, and you can create different vaults to do that sort of thing. And all anyone has to know is one, like that's it's in the name, one password.
It's in the name.
And I did not know this until recently, but like you can share things like payment information, and it will autofill payment information, but the person that you share it with doesn't actually get to see the payment information.
Correct.
Which is actually worth whatever you want to charge me. Yeah. That's a really useful thing. And for the payment information alone, Apple, it's like stored in Safari somewhere,
Safari autofill,
or in your wallet. Like, and if you store a card in your wallet, unless it's your Apple card, you can't actually get the card information back from it.
So that did change in iOS 26. So you have to manually put in the information.
Right, but if you just scan it, it just is there. Yeah.
So if you add a card to your Apple Wallet for Apple Pay, you can use it with Apple Pay, but it does not store the actual card number, expiration, and security code by default.
In a user-accessible way. Right.
Right. And so you can go back in and manually add that information. So if you want to refer to it later, like let's say you need to buy something online and it's not using autofill and you really need to know the security code, like you can go to the wallet app after you put it in manually for it, but it's kind of cumbersome. Most people don't know it's there. And so I still use 1Password to store things like that, like my credit card info. So if I ever need to refer to it. Also, like my travel reward stuff, my like passport number. iCloud Passwords doesn't have item types for that kind of thing. So it really wants you to put in you have to put in a username and password for everything. And I'm like, this isn't a username or a password. So I guess I'll make something up and then put it in the notes. And now you have like weird entries into the Apple password. So 1Password is still better at some things. If, like Jason's saying, you're just storing passwords just for yourself, personally, just logins, iCloud Passwords does that great now. If you need something more powerful, 1Password's the way to go.
Yeah, and I think it's great that there's a choice. And if you really truly feel like you're not getting the value out of something like 1Password, that's probably fine. You're probably better off with a different type of solution. If you are getting the value and as they've like 1Password supports passkeys now. Like you can just have all your passkeys right from this. So anyway, I think it's great.
Yeah, you have both options. And switching back and forth is easy too. You can export your 1Password and import it to iCloud and vice versa. So
I thought you were going to say switching back and forth between your browser. That's the one area where I wish the two would figure out a better way to get along.
iCloud Passwords actually works in all of them.
No, but what I'm saying is they both want to give you your password.
I only get
both places.
Yeah. I only install one extension per browser because they'll fight. They fight to the death. They fight to the death.
And you will never log into anything ever again.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't like being on the same browser. There ain't room in this browser for the two of us. So that's pretty good. Should open the show with that. All right. Anyway, DJI is suing the FCC. If you didn't know, the FCC blocked imports on new DJI drones because of reasons. And well, DJI is fighting back and suing the FCC, hopefully to let it back in. Who knows what will happen there? I feel like DJI is probably at a significant disadvantage as a foreign company suing the FCC. But we'll see. They're going to try. They're going to try to not be banned.
I'm just going to say that DJI makes incredibly good stuff. I have one of the Pocket 3 sitting over here. I have the original DJI mics.
Yeah,
like great stuff. I have one of the drone, the Mavic 2, the one you're allowed to fly without a license.
That's what I
have.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all incredible stuff. And in my brain, it's all just fine. And it's also possible that DJI is the greatest mass surveillance conspiracy foreign thing. Both of those things could very well be true.
It could be true.
But the stuff is so good.
I'm going to use that Pocket 3.
It's like, I don't know what else to say, but like you can get rid of the drones, but there are microphones literally everywhere. Creators are using them constantly.
Every on the street interview for every TikTok.
I'm saying it's too late. You can block this one drone, but it's too late.
Yeah, that's fair enough. They do make great things, and I don't know. I've never had a second thought about it. I'm like, I think it's only recording when it's on, so hey, it's probably fine.
Just like your phone. Facebook's only recording when it's on.
Oh, no, don't feed into the conspiracy theories. Anyway, the last thing here before personal tech. Sonos, it's going to fix everything with a live activity, apparently. Big Sonos app up to what? What were we going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, I really like the Arc and the Sub and the whatever that one is over there. But I use the app to set them up, and that's it. I've never used the app again.
Sonos speaker. If you have a bunch of Sonos speakers, and I have a bunch, they all work with AirPlay. And so technically, yes, you can just AirPlay, tap all the Sonos speakers, and it will AirPlay everywhere, and it works fine. A lot of people like managing it from the Sonos app, which used to work really well, and then Sonos updated their app a couple years ago, and it totally bombed. And then they released the Sonos Ace headphones at the same time, and then they were like too afraid to release new hardware because everybody had a bad taste in their mouth for Sonos. So they're going to try and update their app to make it better, maybe with a live activity. I will say managing groups of speakers is easier and better in the Sonos app as opposed to using AirPlay, but not enough better to use a bad app. And so I don't know if this live activity is going to fix everything, but they're going to try and do that and then hopefully release some new hardware sometime soon. But they've been really biding their time. It's been months since Sonos has released a new consumer product. They released a new commercial type product a couple months ago. We covered it here on the show. But they haven't released anything new since the Arc Ultra and the Sub Gen 4, which were just updated versions of their previous products. So we'll see. Hopefully all this time that they've not been doing hardware stuff, they've been working on software, and maybe they'll make an amazing app with a live activity. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see.
I give them credit, though. I give Tom Conrad, their CEO, credit because he's constantly responding to angry people on threads all the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
He just responds to people's threads all the time. Just give him some credit.
And he's in the Reddit, too, which is... For a CEO to be in the Reddit and responding there, like, that takes some guts. Like, I'm not even on Reddit, and I don't like going to Reddit because I'm afraid of I'm going to find there. There is a great shortcuts community, though, and I do try to share some stuff in the shortcuts community, but I don't know. Did you ever? So you've never been into Reddit? Like, I feel like Reddit is this massive thing.
I mean, I used Reddit until they killed Apollo, and then I was like, forget it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, let's do a personal tech backup solutions on my other podcast, Mac Power Users. Well, David Sparks' podcast, and I'm just there. But on Mac Power Users, we talked about menu bar apps on the last episode. And then I shared this little clip that did some traction. David Sparks sounds like a mob boss in this. He's like, "You have a beautiful family. It would be a shame." But what he's talking about is it would be a shame if I lost all my pictures because of the backup. And I revealed to David Sparks that I don't back up my Mac. I don't use Time Machine or Backblaze. And he was very disappointed in me. He said, we got to figure this out. And so John Siracusa commented. A lot of people commented saying, what am I doing? And so I'm curious, Jason, your backup practices. My backup practice is I put every single file in iCloud Drive, except for files like the WAV file of my audio and my video renders. Those go in my movies folder on my Mac, which doesn't sync to iCloud because I'm doing something with it immediately and then I delete it. Everything else is in iCloud Drive. And so that, I feel, is my backup solution. And that's about it. I do download my entire iCloud photo library full resolution on my Mac Studio. That's why I got an 8 terabyte version. And I do have a copy of my photo library on my network attached storage. I basically just copied the photo library folder over. That was like a year ago. I should probably do it again because I don't have the last years of photos. But I don't know. I feel like my backup's pretty secure. I don't feel a need to do like Time Machine or Backblaze or whatever, but everybody was yelling at me that I should do something. So what do you do?
I will say that both of you're all wrong. No, I just think what I think is that you are not doing enough and everybody else is doing way too much. That's how I feel about this. Like it doesn't have to be complicated, but I think that if you store most of your file, if you store all of your important files in some kind of a service that also backs up to the cloud. So in your case, it's iCloud Drive. For me, for the most part, that's Dropbox. I do have some things in Google Drive because you can't do Google things without putting them in Google Drive. And I do have some things that are in iCloud Drive, mostly because I want to make, if it's a thing I'm like, oh, this would be super convenient if I could just easily access it from the Files app on my phone. It's like, I'll throw it in Google Drive because that's the easiest thing to access in the Files app on the phone. So there's that. Then I also think you should just plug in a Time Machine backup drive, especially when you're using a Mac Studio. Like, it could just be there. It'd be literally completely transparent to you. You'd never have to think about it. I don't think you have to then take that drive every 3 months and mail it to your grandmother and then put a new one and then offload it from spinning disk to cold storage. Like, that kind of stuff to me just feels like complete bonkers. So that's what I do. I have everything stored basically in Dropbox. I have a Time Machine backup of my MacBook Air. I'm not super good about it because I only plug it in like once a week because it's a laptop. It's not connected to an SSD all the time. But you know what? It's fine because all of the files I care about, generally speaking, are in Dropbox. And then my photo library on my Mac Mini is actually stored locally on an an external SSD. Okay, so I have all my photos stored in iCloud, right? I also have my MacBook Air backed up, so they're there. And then there's a physical copy on an SSD. I don't know why I decided to do that, but I thought I should have them locally stored somewhere. And I do not want the terabyte of photos taking up space on a local hard drive. So I just have I actually had one of those LaCie Porsche SSDs. So it's multiple years. You used to only be able to get an app, and they were so expensive at the time. And now I look back at what I paid for that 2 terabyte thing, and given the prices of SSDs, it was like,
I know.
It was like basically buying an Amazon Echo. It was so cheap, like comparatively speaking. But that's what I do. So everything gets stored in a cloud service. Plug in a time machine. I've tried using Backblaze, but with the frequency that I switch devices, I gave up on Backblaze. I might even still be paying for Backblaze, but I'm not using it because the whole like recovery of a license, switching to a different, it's crazy. So I'm not using Backblaze. But I think if all your stuff is stored in a cloud service and you have a time machine backup, that's really all anyone needs to do.
Well, I appreciate that affirmation. I do with your iCloud photo library. How did you get that to an external SSD? Did you like tell Photos to put my photo library there, or did you like move the photo library bundle to your external SSD and then tell the Photos app that's where you go?
I think I told it make the photo library on that SSD. It is actually a weird, confusing process that will involve the Photos app freezing 2 or 3 times, and you have to force quit it a couple times, and then reboot your Mac, go outside, spin around 4 times, spit, come back in, and then try again. But if you make it through that, it'll work. And that's basically what I just did. I just told it use this drive to make the photo library on this. And so what I did it when I set this Mac Mini up. Right. So obviously I did set this Mac Mini up as a backup. So it did have a photo library. I then went into the Photos app and told it make my photo library over there. And that's where it gets a little bit, you have to like turn off iCloud syncing, and then you have to make the new photo library, and then you turn iCloud photo syncing back on, and then it will sync all your photos down to that. And then anything you do in the future will also save there. It's not easy. It should be easier, but it's like the kind of thing you only have to do once.
Okay. I might do that. I have it on my local Mac studio because it has a huge SSD, so that's fine. But I do want to mention this one app that in the replies on that Mastodon post, this was shared by Cliff538 on Mastodon. And it's an app called Parachute Backup, which I never heard of before. But if you're someone like me and just trusts iCloud for everything, this is an app you can download on your Mac, and it will basically download your entire iCloud Drive contents, put it on a network attached storage or on an external SSD or hard drive, so you have a backup of your iCloud somewhere. And then once you do that initial backup, you can tell it, only sync the changes so it doesn't take forever. And to save space on your Mac, when it's doing that backup, it will have to download the file in order to copy it over first, but then it will remove the download from your Mac. So if you have more in your iCloud Drive than storage you have on your Mac, it takes that into account. It will download a file, back it up, then offload it from your Mac all at the same time. No subscriptions or anything. I believe it's a one-time purchase on the Mac App Store. It is $5, which is not bad. And so I think I'm going to try this because I feel like I could run this, save my iCloud Drive contents to one of my network attached storages, because I literally have 2. That's what really set David off. Is like I have 2 network attached storages, one with a 10 gigabit Ethernet connection. So like I have the perfect setup for Time Machine. Like it's right there. But I will say, one of my network attached storages, it was sent to me by Ugreen. They had sponsored a video a while ago. They sent me it, and they sent me with 3 terabyte big drives. So I have 6 3.5-inch spinning hard drives, but they're 3 terabytes, and I've actually almost filled it up because I save all my final renders of videos to that network attached storage. So I was like, I should upgrade that storage, and then maybe I'll start doing a Time Machine backup because there's only like 3 terabytes free. I need more to back up my Mac, I think. So I went to go look at prices for a 20 terabyte hard drive, and Jason, I was shocked and appalled, and I was like, well, not happening today.
It's real bad.
It's real bad. It's like I feel like you used to be able to get 20 terabytes for like $200, and it's tripled in price. It's like $600 now for a 20 terabyte, and it's a shame. It's a shame. I don't know. So I'm gonna wait for those. Do you think prices will go back down? Like, is there a possibility?
I mean, either that or the world will come to an end. AI will result in one of those things for sure.
All right. Well, we're going to go record a bonus episode, which is going to be real tough because there's a massive delay because I'm using the Riverside Mac app, and Riverside messed up the studio today, and so this whole recording has just been wild. And I'm waiting for Jason to react because he's super delayed.
It's been fun. It's been fun because what I hear is nothing, and then I hear Steven super fast, and then I hear nothing, but I can see his face moving on the screen, but it's at a different time delay. And then I hear like Chipmunk Steven talking really fast, and then I hear nothing for a little while, and then it catches up, and then it gets out of sync, and sometimes the video's ahead, and sometimes the audio's ahead, and then sometimes there's no audio. It's been fun. But we're professionals, and so I can cope.
Thank you for coping. I really hope this is fixed by next week. But anyway, you can support the show and listen to the audio version. The audio version is going to be pristine on this one. I don't know what the video is going to be like because Riverside's been messing up this whole time. But if you want to hear the bonus episode, get an ad-free version, you get Primary Tech Daily. You can support the show at join.primarytech.fm. You can also support us directly on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. We'll get a shout-out. We still want to know what Vision Pro owners are out there. And if you have an EV that plugs into Apple Maps and you actually see little charging things, we know Toyota does it. We know Ford does it. If you have another brand EV car that works with Apple Maps, we'd like to hear about it. Maybe we can compile a list of all the things that it works with. And yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.